Hello, and for those of y'all who are looking for my episode 1 and 2 review, I got copyright claim, so I can't really use clips except for concussion cam. I'm going to keep using that. But go ahead and look for my video at www.theexplosivegirl.com and scroll all the way down and you'll see the video. Now let's get started. So last episode, we had magic lightning babies getting dropped from at least 6-story buildings, old men overacting and dying. We had cold activity and Gurum getting hit in the head about 11 times. So all in all, it was a good experience. We also have a whole host of characters. We have Anakin Skywalker, who is the man with the burnt arm. We have the girl with no leg but a leg. We have Senator Palpatine, because he whispers in the ear of the cult leader. And we have Geo, the magic lightning baby. So the episode starts with Gurum feeling on Geo as she flashes back to when they were kids and the last time she saw her parents. Seriously, at this point, Geo has saved her twice and they've only met 3 times in their lives. This is a major red flag. So the captain finds Gurum's stun gun and he blocks off the subway so nobody can enter or leave. Gurum is still out, so Geo takes her phone and turns it into a bomb so that they can put on gas masks and pass the police, which is really smart. There is a part where Gurum is leaning on Geo and he just gets up and lets her fall face first on a hard subway station bench. So it's kind of funny. So next we find out Geo cells are spliced with animal DNA, and the scientists immediately figure out who did it because they know anybody who mixes animals together and then inserts it into humans is a psycho, and that's exactly what they call him. The lead scientist then explained in a later scene that the mad scientist was his best friend and he once spoke at a conference. And he really ruffled some feathers. We see this conference and he starts saying that humans chose technology instead of evolution and humans are the only species that is not evolving, which is completely not true. But he also says people need to evolve. And as he's saying this, he's ranting like a lunatic. His eyes are all crazy. He's hitting the table with his one good arm. It is a mess. So this friend, the scientist who's talking, mobilizes and condemns his friend in a scientific journal. Then the mad scientist is arrested because it comes out that he's stolen stem cells and other organic material and smuggled in various kinds of endangered species. When his lab was raided, they found a chimera, which is an animal-human hybrid. And when this is said, the camera pans over various jars of babies immersed in fluid. It was then explained that after this, his family cut ties with him, and I'm assuming that's when the cult got its hooks into him. So Geo has taken Gurum into his house or storage room or... Look, I don't know where he lives, okay? We can see Gurum just sprawled out. She's just oblivious right now. And I don't really blame her. At this point, she's had so many concussions, I'm surprised she even knows who she is. So Senator Palpatine is yelling at Anakin Skywalker now because he let Geo go. And he says something really funny. He's like, everybody makes a big mistake once in their life, like selling drugs or stealing or getting married. I'm like, dang, that's pretty cynical, but funny. So they hatched up a plan to look for the female detective because she's the only person he's ever saved before. They say he usually just runs away. Senator Palpatine harps on how marriage is bad again by saying to Anakin, I'll let you retire if you don't F this up. And he says, don't you want a house, a dog? You can't live here forever. But don't get married. It only causes problems. Like, what is his deal? He gives Anakin an incentive to bring in Geo by saying, He'll give Anakin Geo's arm if he prioritizes and really works to capture him. So, Gudrun wakes up and immediately starts trying to kick Geo's ass. I find it funny that Geo can fight really well when he's against Gudrun, who, by the way, is an excellent fighter. But he's a glorified punching bag against Anakin. He ends up pinning her down in the typical K-drama romantic way, and she asks him what he remembers. And he says he remembers reviving someone, but he's not sure who. Maybe her? And Gudrun says, oh yeah, thanks for that. So it's like she's grateful to him, but she also distrusts him, which is very confusing. He also says ever since he woke up in the hospital, he doesn't remember anything. And she asks if he knew a Mr. Kim. And she says, who? Which must have triggered her because she kicks him in the stomach and runs away and shuts Geo in the room. They continue to converse through the door, and Gudrun wonders why he remembers her if he can't remember anything. And Geo replies that he doesn't know, and that's why he saved her. He then asks if they've met before, and to this she replies that she must have, unless there's someone out there just like Geo. Gudrun then recounts the story that we already know to Geo about him being in her house, and we also get another look at what I assume is her first concussion in a long line of head trauma. The captain and his lieutenant wonder why these people are chasing Geo so hard, and the captain says something that I think will come back later. He says, the moment you think you can kill your parent or your children is when you lose your humanity. He's kind of talking about the cult women because they are all giving up their children to be experimented on and possibly killed. So is it really Geo that's the monster, or is it the shadow organization? So Anakin shows up out of nowhere and he walks straight up to Gudrun and punches her dead in the face and then starts choking her. At this point, I really feel like she needs to get an MRI or something because there has to be some lasting effects to all these head traumas. And if all that was not bad enough, Anakin throws her through a window. Drama. Can Gudrun please get a break, please? My head hurts just looking at this. Throughout this fight, he slams her on her back, hits her on the head with an extinguisher, and she is giving it about as good as she's taking it. So wait, she hits him with a metal pipe behind his knee. She hits him in the head with the fire extinguisher, but for some reason he just walks it off like he doesn't feel it. Yo, is Anakin a super soldier? So you're probably wondering where Geo is during all this. Well, remember, Gudrun locked him in a room, so he's beating on the door trying to get to her. And finally, Anakin moves the chair from the door. And the cops come in right at that second, and Anakin runs away. Geo is just about to run to her, but she signals for him not to come. Later, when everyone has gone outside to pursue Anakin, she tells Geo to meet her at 7 o'clock in the same place. In a scene with Senator Palpatine speaking with Anakin, we find out that Gudrun's father is the scientist that created Geo. Palpatine also says that Gudrun's dad ran away with the research material and Geo, and that's why they're in the mess they're in now. We see a scene of him telling Gudrun's dad that they have his wife, and if he doesn't talk, Gudrun is going to be an orphan. They don't tell us exactly what Senator Palpatine does to him, but Senator Palpatine lies to Anakin and tells him that he went missing, and most likely Geo did it. So I suspect that Anakin is going to tell Gurum this, and she's going to get really upset. And once Anakin and Gurum find out the truth, Anakin will turn to the light side and help them and probably die. I don't know. So at the police station, the captain tells everyone that they're pulled off the case. And I'm sure it's the doing of Gurum's old boss, because in an earlier scene, we're told that she was investigating him due to his shady nature. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's mixed up in all of this somehow. When the captain asks where Gurum is, another police officer is like, she's probably getting the medical attention she so desperately needs. So everybody sees what I'm seeing, right? Gurum then met Gio and throws him some food, and they talk and pretty much play the I'm worse off than you game. Gurum says, do you know what it's like to not know if your parents left me or if they're dead or alive? And Gio's like, well, I can't remember anything, so at least you know that you were abandoned. And they kind of go back and forth like this. She then tells him that he's from an orphanage and they'll go together. And as she goes to leave and he grabs her hand, she pulls out an effing gun on him. Like, this escalated quickly. They were just talking all nice, and then she has a firearm pointed at him. So after Anakin cartoonishly pops into the scene to let us know that they're probably going to try to kidnap somebody or do something illegal, we see Gurum and Gio meeting in a car to go to the orphanage. They get there and a nun greets them, and I already know it's about to be some BS. So they're taken to Sister Stella, and Sister Stella is actually on Gurum's crazy board. She's really weird, and she has burns around her eyes, and she's just like in this mystic trance or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to explain crazy. Anyway, Gurum asks about Gio, and the old lady is like, I'll never forget him. He was adopted 4 times, and each time they brought him back the next day. And they were really, really scared, like they were trying to run away. And he set fire to this church. He is a devil, and he does things, and then he says he doesn't remember. And he changes his personality to fit the circumstances. So if you have any dealings with him, don't. Well, of course, Gio's not going to take this laying down. So he gets up and he's like, hey, I didn't do any of this. I don't even remember being here. And I wish you guys could see the lady's face. She looks like she is about to stroke out. Like she goes into a full coughing fit. I really thought she was about to die. So she runs away and prostrates herself in front of the Virgin Mary. Gio follows, and he sees her just fervently praying. And he's like, am I really that bad? And she's like, you are the devil. Not a devil, but the devil. And Gurum is trying to comfort Gio. And she takes his hand, and she's like, let's go. But suddenly, he sees a particular stained glass window, and he remembers the fire and all the women and children lost. Then we see Sister Stella trying to do some kind of exorcism on him with holy water, and behind her is a line of nuns praying fervently, and she's just throwing holy water on this kid and being like, keep the devil out of him, get this devil out of him. So he's had enough, and he shouts, stop. And by doing that, he lets his power go, which scares her more. Well, once he remembers this, he walks back up to the sister, and he asks her, don't do this. Come on, don't do this. And she just keeps saying, you're the devil, and praying. Well, he's had about enough. So he gets mad, and he goes Super Saiyan on her. And in the process, say it with me, Gudum gets knocked out again. You know what? I'm not even surprised. So the old lady goes flying across the room, knocking down the podium, and she's looking all confused, disheveled, disoriented, and he's standing in front of her, and he goes God mode on that ass and burns the effing church down. When I tell you I had to stop the video because I was laughing so hard, it was so ridiculous. It was a cool scene, but what the hell? So, in the beginning of the next episode, the sprinklers come on. Thank God. And the old crazy nun is ushered away by her subordinate. Gudrun wakes up, but I don't know how she's still waking up after all these blows to the head. And Gio is kind of standing in his superhero pose, looking cool, brooding, and mysterious. So Gudrun is like, hey, let's go. And Gio says, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. In a really weird, robotic, but pleading voice. I don't know if he's saying he didn't just do that accident that we all just saw him do, or he didn't do what he supposedly did as a kid. So as they flee, Gio looks at the Virgin Madonna ornament that he was exorcised in front of, and he remembers himself as a young person and starts to cry because he knows that he did set the fire to the church. So Gudrun leads him to the car and they get out of there. The nun that's helping Sister Stella kind of is smacking her in the face trying to wake her up instead of calling a doctor or ambulance like she should. But I guess if this works, okay, go off, sis. The Three Stooges, with Anakin as their leader, makes it to the church as soon as Gio and Gudrun leave. They don't know this, so they try to search for them. And they come across the nun, and Anakin chokes her up against the wall and asks where Gio is. And as they're leaving, his coworker is mean mugging the nun. Like, how threatening can a little 100-pound nun be? Come on, guys. In the car, Gudrun tries to lighten the mood by asking Gio, since when could he do that lightning thing? And he answers very profoundly by saying, it's when I want to die that I think about how happy I'd be when this is all over. And I light up and see blue before my eyes. And Gudrun says astutely that the times he wants to die are the times that he wants to live the most. In the next scene, we see Senator Palpatine smacking the ish out of Anakin. It's really funny. YouTube won't let me show you, but please find that clip and watch it. So once Anakin tells Senator Palpatine how he puts monitors on the police station and Gudrun's house to track her because she's clearly on the move with Gio, Senator Palpatine comes down and affectionately asks him, have you eaten yet? You know, you have to keep up your energy. It's just completely crazy. And then he says, you know, I don't trust people, but I trust you. And I trust you, mad scientist. So you guys, let's get it together and do it. Is this really time for a pep talk? So the mad scientist and Anakin have a chat, and the mad scientist asks, are you staying here for a mere arm? It's just an arm. You should kind of leave. He says this in so many words, at least. Anakin asks, can you really replace my arm with Gio's? And the mad scientist kind of BS's around and says some really deep but not that deep stuff. But in the end, he's just giving him a maybe. And Anakin realizes this. He says that everybody in this place never gives him a straight answer. And the scientist retorts, well, I bet that's hard for a former soldier. The mad scientist then asks Anakin to please bring in Gio without hurting him, because all of his dreams have been of Gio lately. And I think this really foreshadows the two of them turning on Senator Palpatine and the cult leader because their consciousness are going to win. Well, I think. Next, Gudrun stops to make two phone calls. And the most surprising thing about this scene is that she's on a payphone in the first place. Is this just evidence of how culturally ignorant I am? Or are there payphones like this in Korea? Somebody please comment this below. So she asked her captain to look up this car number. And it turns out the car was chopped up and it shouldn't be on the road. So she comes to the conclusion that somebody has followed her. And the captain is on her behind because he's warning her that she better not be doing something she's not supposed to, because he was already suspicious when he had to save her in that warehouse. You remember that scene where she got her head knocked in like 80 times? One time with a fire extinguisher? Yeah, that scene. So Gudrun is worrying, like, who is Gio that people are even going after a cop? So she takes him to her doctor friend. And they use a cosmetic surgery clinic to be auspicious. And she asked Gio to take some tests. And he's really mad because he's like, you make this decision by yourself? I don't want to do it. And she goes after him and she says, this is the key to finding out who you are. And he answers, if we find out that I killed your parents, then what? And she threatens that if he did, then he will die. So he's like, so these tests decide whether you kill me or not? Well, let's take them. And he goes up to the doctor and he says, hey, what do we need to do? She's standing there really surprised, just stuck. So the tests get underway, and at first it's kind of mundane. A shot here, swap there. But then there's some gruesome ones like skin extraction and spinal fluid extraction. And these tests actually trigger the memories of Gio, of him being a child being experimented on. And they're very hard to watch because as gentle as this doctor is that's doing the present testing on Gio, he's triggered back to when the doctors just didn't give a F and just stuck stuff in places and just did not care for his comfort at all. It was brutal. So he gets up, rips the spinal tap out of his back, and runs into the street. And there's this Karen that's just looking at him like she's about to call 911. It's like, what's your problem? You never seen a man a little upset before? She's really doing the most. So he's running and blood is coming down the back of his shirt. And I don't really understand this, but everybody's running away from him like he has a gun or a weapon or something. He's hurting, not gonna hurt you. Gudrun is really empathetic and she gives him a coat so that people won't be irrationally afraid of him for having blood on the back of his shirt. She says, I won't say sorry, but the tests are almost done. And Gio says, I get chills when people come near me, especially in the dark. And you're the only one that I don't feel that way with. Especially when I was in the linen closet hiding and in the subway. If I killed your parents, my hair would have stood up as soon as you approached me. It didn't. I didn't do that. And she's like, the next test won't hurt as badly. But he says, I'm scared. I don't want to know. I really don't blame him because every time he gets some memories, it's always some messed up stuff like the crazy nun and the burning church and now being experimented on. I don't know if I would want to know either. So she says, if you won't come, I'll make you. So he starts charging up his hand and he puts his hand up against the bus station and he makes it shatter. And it throws glass at her. And when she looks up, he's gone. Now, I don't know how he did this because he can't fly. He doesn't run extremely fast. And they're at a bus station. So there's nothing really around that he can just go hide behind. There's not a tree or anything around. I just can't figure this scene out. So there's this scene where the doctor is fixing up Gudrun's face, and he asks, are you going to be okay? You're abetting a criminal, and you already got transferred from your other job. And he's like, Why are you holding on to him so much? And she explains about her parents and how he came to her house when they were younger. And he asks her if she thinks her parents are dead or alive. And she says, "Isn't it obvious? After 5 years, people are presumed dead. And if they're alive, why didn't they come see me? But I still wish that they were alive." The doctor says, "You know, you are you. You're going to play many roles in life, but you can't just play the role of someone's daughter. And say your parents may ruin your life, your children may ruin your life, but you should be the last person to ruin your life." Very wise words. So she asks if the test will connect Geo to the mad scientist. And he says, yeah, science have certain ways of research and different telltale signs in their works. So we could probably do that. And she's like, well, if we find out that the mad scientist made Geo, then can we find out about Geo's past too? And the scientist says probably. And she asks one more thing. She asks, when you get the results, will you tell me? And he replies, you'll be the first to know. And she gets up to go and turns around and bows to him, which is so sweet. And at that moment, I'm thinking, he is so gonna die. So there is a strange conversation with the leg girl, who we'll start calling the redhead, and Anakin. She says that she saw his military record because her ex-boyfriend worked for the military and she bribed him. And she said she saw that he killed 9 people in an accident where he used a real grenade instead of a flash grenade. And we see a flashback of that. She also said there's no way a person cannot tell the difference between a real grenade and a flash grenade. And he's about to get out of the car. She says, the same thing happened to me. She explains, I never carried anything but blank rounds, and there's a flashback of her playing war games, and she goes to shoot at a person, and she's really happy because her team won, and she starts hearing screams of agony, and she says, I killed 6 people, and I know that I only had blank rounds in my gun. We see her put her gun down in astonishment and accidentally shoots her leg. She goes on to say that she was sentenced to 2 life sentences and she was trying to kill herself, but someone came to her and said that they would give her work and even a new leg. And then she says, I hope that something like that didn't happen to you. And Anakin asks her who came to you. And she's like, I can't tell you. I promised on my deathbed that I'd never say. And then it flashes back to Anakin being in prison, and we see the face of Senator Palpatine. And he says, you can either rot in this jail or you can do some work for us. So the redhead starts asking probing questions like, you don't think this is all a conspiracy, do you? Or do you think we really made those mistakes? And Anakin, visibly shaking, says, well, let's just not make mistakes in the future, and gets out of the car. She then declares her love for him by saying, we can run away together. We're the best at hiding our traces. And Anakin says he's going to pretend he didn't hear that. She's like, if I run away, will you come kill me? And he answers, of course. You can kind of tell those two are kind of going to be together, or at least they'll have a will they, won't they dynamic. So Anakin leaves, and the camera pans to where the redhead is looking, which is in the Gudrun's house. We get this cutscene at the police station. Gudrun gets her boss some coffee, and he's like, what is this? Are you sick or something? No, she says, I just like you. He's like, are you in some kind of trouble or something? And she's like, see, this is why I can't do anything nice for you. And then she's like, well, can you return this for me? And she runs away. It's her cell phone and it's fried. The captain gets up yelling. He's like, what do you do this thing? You just got it yesterday. So Gio is walking and he sees a car that he saw in his wallet and calls the number. The guy on the other side barely picks it up because he's pooping. And Gio is just breathing into the phone. And the guy says, is this Gio? And Gio is like, who are you? And he's like, I'm your friend. You haven't come home. Hurry up. Do you need some money? Have you forgot your address? And Gio just hangs up on him. But I'm glad to know that he has some kind of support in this world. So the captain sets a new cell phone on Gudrun's desk, and she's like, thank you. He's like, hey, I want you to think of me as a brother. And she's like, I don't have a brother. And he's like, well, an uncle. And she's like, I don't have one either. And he's like, what's going on? Anything wrong? Is there any grievances against the team? And she's like, no, I like being part of the team. And then he starts yelling. He's like, then why did you microwave a phone? He informs her that it's torched inside, and the technology people said that the only way this could have happened is if you put this in the microwave. And I'm trying to defend you, and they say a psychopath has joined our team. If this is why you got kicked out of the CIU because you're crazy. The office phone then happens to ring, and she picks it up so quick. And she's like, really? I'll be right there. And gets up and starts running toward the door. And he's like, stop right there. And she stops, and he's like, come here. And she starts to come toward him, and then she grabs her cell phones and runs out of there. As she's leaving, you see the redhead and Anakin driving behind her. And honestly, I don't understand how she didn't spot them, because they're right on her tail. So Gio gets to the house of his friend, and I have no idea how, because he hung up on him. Maybe he just went off an instinct or something. We'll just go with that. So he electrocutes the door, and his friend asks who's there. And when he sees Gio, he embraces him, and he's like, oh my God, I thought you were dead. And then he first tries to take off his shoes, and Gio's trying to run, and he's like, nope. Here you go. You need to take a shower. You stink. And oh, it's so sweet. It's so cute. I love this scene. So they eat ramen, and Gio asks his friend how he knows him. And he answers that they escaped the orphanage together. So he must be the little kid we saw with Gio earlier. The guy says that they used to rob and steal to stay afloat, and we flash back to scenes of Gio reluctantly shocking people and breaking glass while his friend is happily emptying pockets and shelves. Gio is really shocked that this is his life. So Gio starts, and the friend dismissively says, yeah, we're bad guys. Like, were you shocked? We had to do what we had to do. He also tells Gio the reason for the church burning down. He says there were some bullies that were pummeling them, and because of that, he woke up and the church was burning. And then they ran away because the nuns were going all crazy because of the church burning down. You can kind of see in Gio's face that this is a shock. Seriously, everything he finds out about himself is just not good. So the reunion isn't sweet for long. We see Gio's friend calling Anakin and telling him Anakin has just come home. We flash back to a scene where Gio's friend is being tortured in front of a sewing machine. And Anakin keeps asking where Gio is. He says he doesn't know, and Anakin says, well, tell me the second he comes to you or I'll kill you. So I really can't blame this guy, but this is just all kinds of messed up. So we see Gudrun meet the scientist and find out that Gio is 6 different life forms mixed with human DNA, and that is a knife fish, a jellyfish, a fruit fly, and other various DNA. He said the only way that this could happen is the scientists found out the secret of Luca, or the last common ancestor, which is the cell that created all life. This is pretty interesting. He also dropped the bomb that Gio is not born, but he was engineered from scratch, and he is not human. This kind of reminds me of that drama, Your Love from the Stars, where the woman fell in love with an alien. The scientist also says that it is 99% the mad scientist's work, and he needs to consult academia. I still think he's going to die, but I guess we'll see. Gio wakes up with his hair standing up on his arm, and he knows that danger is approaching. He leaves the room in just enough time to see his friend betraying him. So now it's Mortal Kombat. In corner 1, we see Geo. And in corner 2, we have Anakin Skywalker, the Red Woman, and the guy nobody knows. Let's see who wins. So there's this huge fight scene, and papers are thrown. Geo shocks Anakin's left arm, which is the only thing he ever shocks. They fall off a roof, and just as Geo is choking and shocking Anakin, the redhead manages to get a sleeping needle in him. Once they're done, they look up and see that people have taken videos and pictures of the fight. Anakin orders the redhead and the unknown guy to make sure they erase all traces and pictures of what just happened and clean up well. So, la 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 la. The scientist is just kind of searching the internet, and he comes across all of his data, and he's furious. We cut to a scene of him screaming at Senator Palpatine, and he's like, "How could you have done that? You let everybody see my life's work? I don't care what you have to do. Burn down the server, but get my stuff off that internet." And Palpatine's like, "Are you done? Are you acting? I really think you did it. What's more likely, that Geo went and got a physical, or you uploaded your information because you wanted recognition?" And the mad scientist is like, "I don't want such things. What are you talking about? I didn't do it." And Senator Palpatine retorts, "You wouldn't be a scientist if you didn't want such things." Oh Lord, now they're turning on each other. It was only a matter of time, really. So Senator Palpatine says, "Okay, I'll get the researchers taken down, but until we find out how this information got leaked, I don't trust you. And you're up in age. Please don't raise your voice." He's really condescending. So we see a car, and Anakin's driving, and Geo is in the back seat. Anakin calls Senator Palpatine to tell him that he's got Geo in his possession. Senator Palpatine is so excited. He's like, "Hey, can we FaceTime?" So they FaceTime, and it's confirmed. Well, Geo starts to stir. Then we see a flashback of Goodrum's dad driving Geo in the back. And he stops across from a car that looks very Secret Service-ish. And he gets out, and a man snatches Geo from the back of the car. This is when Geo is a little boy. Goodrum's father says, "Hey, this is the boy I was telling you about. I need some money to relocate overseas with my family, so we'll be safe. And I want to make sure he'll be safe too." And the mysterious guy says, "We will need time to test and see if he has the genetic structure that you claim." So everybody gets in the van, including Goodrum's dad, and we see a pretty gruesome scene of Geo screaming at the top of his lungs while he's poked and prodded and his skin is being peeled back with no anesthesia or anything. So grown-up Geo is waking up, and he asks Anakin, "Who are you, and why are you doing this to me?" And Anakin looks really surprised, and he doses him with 3 tranquilizer guns. And I'm thinking, he's gonna kill this man. Like, he really went a little overboard. So Geo falls across the back seat, and you see a tear leave his eye. And then his eyes light up blue, so you know something's about to happen. And then, boom! The car blows up, flips over, and rolls off a cliff. Geo emerges from the car, miraculously, without his ties and handcuffs. I don't know how he got out of those. I'm guessing he electrocuted them off. But Anakin is stuck in the car, and he can't get the seatbelt off. We see Geo walking away from the explosion like a cool guy in an action movie. And the car lights up in flames. And that's where it ends. So is this the end for Anakin? Will Geo walk away from another explosion without looking at it? Stay tuned for the answer to these questions and more on the next episode of Dragon Ball Luca: The Beginning. Comment below what you think will happen, and please like and subscribe while you're at it. We don't really have any fancy drama music here, so maestro, cue my music. And explosive girl out. See you next time. Hey, yo.